So the piece at the Toy and Miniature Museum that I added to the exhibit is called My Precious. It is the tiniest little tumbler. It's maybe like, I don't know, an inch tall. And the inspiration behind the piece was really kind of this knee-jerk reaction to seeing the Stanley tumbler everywhere. And I thought, well, if this can exist in our reality and it's part of like our social fabric, I feel like I should make one of these in silver and make it kind of this super precious thing. And I think, the Toy and Miniature Museum does a wonderful job of having a beautiful collection of historical objects. And I felt like that was an object that was really relevant to our very specific time right now. Because let's be honest, that thing's probably not going to be popular in 5 years. I love the idea of working in miniature. Obviously, as a jeweler, I find myself working on a teeny tiny scale every day. And I had a lovely individual drop off a card in my studio. They have a little studio table at the front door there, and they just left me a little card to remind me that this exhibit existed. And I thought, well, this is just the perfect opportunity to do something fun that's not jewelry that, I don't know, I needed a little break from. And so it was a good excuse to make something interesting. I mean, I think working in miniature is my everyday life. It's hard on the fingers. You get to use fun, cool glasses so that you can see things in tiny. There's lots of tools that are very specific to what you do in the miniature scale, which just so happens that I have because, yet again, a jeweler. So I think there's a lot of cross-pollination between working in miniature and obviously creating jewelry. And so it's a great combination of really hyper-focused, small, detailed work, but still needing to produce something that is, in my case with jewelry, comfortable and wearable, and in the case of the tumbler, something interesting and functional. I'm lucky to get to have a beautiful studio with lovely natural light, and I do come in here every day and think, oh, this is a nice place to work. So that's really enjoyable. I think, having all of the tools that I need close at hand is really important. Nobody wants to go digging through a drawer to find the thing that they need. And so that's a big part of kind of why my tools are set up the way that they are. I am, at the end of the day, a craftsman. I consider myself a craftsperson. I really love perfecting my craft and doing as good of a job as I absolutely can and continuing to practice and moving that forward in combination with unique designs that maybe we haven't ever seen or explored before, which is really difficult when jewelry's been around for how many thousands and thousands of years. So there's very little that's new. So really kind of taking this craftsmanship and this idea of practice and turning it into something contemporary. Yeah, there's the basics, right? Like you come in and you like turn on the pickle, and then you turn on the torch, and then you make sure you turn on the light, and then you have to make sure those are all turned off before you leave, because that's a problem otherwise. It takes me a while to get into something. And so for me, a lot of my rituals revolve around like carving out the time and setting aside like block scheduling to make sure that I like, okay, you may not know what you're doing, but for the next 3 hours, this is what you're supposed to do. Like sit down and do it. And then I can kind of get in and explore when I have that block of time to sort of take advantage of. Oh, and audiobooks. Lots and lots of audiobooks. I think this is probably synonymous for most jewelers, but it's, a lot of different hand tools, flex shafts, torches, materials wise. I love all the precious stuff. So, you've got all the semi-precious stones and precious stones and materials. And, it's fun to work with stuff that costs thousands of dollars. It's interesting I came to jewelry through art school. I went to KU. They have a phenomenal metalsmithing program that's a 4-year degree. And, they really sort of brought into the learning component, not only learning the techniques and the skills, but also learning how to research and then create a successful piece. And I think that's just kind of part of design school, like what, being an artist is sort of about is, what makes you unique? How do you get to that point? And even though I make work that is sold direct to consumer now, and is very much influenced by the trends as well as, the tastes of my customer, it still always feels really authentic to kind of that initial experience. Like, what is the research? Like, what are the designs? What are the sketches? How is that presented? What makes this mine? How is this me versus and somebody else? I have always loved creating. I remember as a kid, self-directed, finding here's the best handicraft book and making placemats and paper mache and always having my hands in something. And whether that was building something or even taking apart something, I find a lot of joy in that process of putting it together and taking it apart. And once I landed at art school in KU, I was just this is it. These are my people. This is my thing. I just really loved the environment. I felt supported and flourished. And then especially when I found metalsmithing, it's that great combination of both sides of your brain. You get to really explore the science component of art, and that there are rules, solder's only going to flow at a certain temperature, metal's going to melt at a certain temperature. When you run it through a mill, it's going to react and respond a physical way, and these are all physical laws. And I love those constraints then paired with the creativity that comes with the art portion of it. I think it's a product of that craftsmanship that I referred to earlier. I really love good, strong, clean lines and more of an architectural feel to things. I like the materials to speak to their importance and their value, but then also their natural properties. I'm not gonna make, a big blob of something out of a material that likes to be structural. So that's kind of how it integrates. I'm gonna eat this camera. Ah!